he does arrive, just because we were talking about what's it called, the Book of Boba Fett or something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. And it's got one of the Boston Dynamics robots in, which is pretty cool. So I guess that's the first one, the first real robot to have got into that. But because I can use it as a segue, back in the day, Patrick, he sadly passed away since, and I can't remember his name because we didn't talk about it before. But we had the maker of R2D2, didn't we? Come to the conference and do stuff. And
yeah, what's it?
Remember? What was his name? He died, didn't he? But
yeah,
the actual guy that made R2D2
at the conference.
Maybe they'll come to me during the program. But yeah, he was on the podcast, and a very interesting. Podcast and definitely something, here's the guy that R2D2 came out of his brain and, very into robotics and kind of had issues with the drone thing and how come, these things weren't taking off literally and things like that. Someone who you would say is like, that far into the future or science fiction and thinking about that. And they're like, well, why isn't this happening? And,
And that was a good 10 years ago, wasn't it? It was at least 10 years ago that happened.
Yeah, he had an idea where he wanted to do kind of like the trading cards or even like, the card games like, I guess, Magic, The Gathering, and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all the rest of this. And with robots. But, a lot of the robots, is like they don't really have the staying power that R2-D2 had. Although, I will say the robots that the Boston Dynamics are making, and then I guess there's one on the space station, and Roomba, I that Roomba card, right? Throw that down, and although I did get the mopping robot for my wife a few years ago because it was either me swabbing the deck or the robot, and I'm like, hey, check it out, I got you something.
Happy New Year to everyone, Drone Pilot, that helped New Year. That's precisely the right sentiment for this chat. So well done, you. It's very good indeed. So where I wanted to start, and it's a pity that Mad's in the comments as well. Pity that Brucey's not here because a couple of years ago, SGS News was doing really, really well, and what Patrick and I decided to do was, it's about 2 years ago, we decided to spend $8 billion on buying Tokoroa Airfield. And we told Brucey he's got 2 years to get out of there, sort it out. I thought we were pretty reasonable about it. And that bugger, only last November did he start telling his fellow modelers there that they needed to get off the airfield. Hands up, anyone knows what I'm actually talking about.
No.
No?
No.
In America, AT&T and Verizon on the 31st. So they gave the FAA and the Department of Transport until today, isn't it? Yes, it's tomorrow.
No, and they gave them a 2-week extension.
Yeah, but tomorrow they're going to start rolling out their 5G services. But on the 31st, they said the FAA and DOT sent them a letter saying, "Oh, please, won't you stop? Please don't do that because you're going to ruin all the radar altimeters everywhere." And but when the cell phone companies paid for the 5G spectrum and paid the $8 billion US, that was 2 years ago. And the FAA only started on November 21st, the date I can remember, because that's Montgolfier Day, the ballooning day. But that's when they started notifying the airlines, hey, we need to do something with like 2 months to go. So just absolute insanity. Annoys the heck out of me.
Well, not only is it that interesting, they turned around and said something about remote ID where they said 5G for the remote ID system. It says because GPS isn't good enough for the person on the ground to know where they're stood. What I find interesting is if they're saying that for the control where you're stood, your mobile phone isn't good enough. Do they understand that the GPS in this is roughly the same as the one that's in the drone? How is that accurate enough to know where the drone is?
No, it's worse than that. They actually asked, the FAA
Yeah.
asked Samsung and Apple if they could up the game with the phone GPS, and that was part of a freedom of information. No, it wasn't. That was part of a whistleblower thing that somebody sent to us, and it's been used in Jonathan's case. But I think we should probably let Patrick come in on this one now, because there's not it's just lots on this.
Well, yeah, I want to go back because I remembered it did come to me. It was Professor Tony Dyson.
That's it.
Gentleman who developed and built R2D2. And then the bandwidth sale was 80 billion, Gary.
Oh, 80. Sorry, not 8. Oh, we got Tokoroa cheap then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You got to throw another zero in there. But, this has been some HAI, being a member of the media, the SUS News, I'm an affiliate member of HAI since the ARC back in 2008, and I read their articles, and they've been talking about this for a while. The 5G thing, FAA, with the RID and beyond visual line of sight, all these other people talking about how we're going to use 5G. Obviously didn't have a, let's say, complete picture of what was going on here. So I just, at this point, and being involved with this for like 20 years, I shouldn't be shocked, but the FAA just moves at their own pace. It's the pace of a narcoleptic snail, and they don't care. They don't care.
What was really interesting, though, so in that letter, the telecoms companies went, look, an aircraft that leaves France or the UK shouldn't need to be any different when it gets to America. Basically, they were saying, to the FAA. They were saying, get your act together. There's no reason. If these guys over here can do it, why should a plane, when it gets to here, need something else? This is ridiculous. Sort your stuff out. We've paid this money. We're bringing this stuff in. You know what I mean? It's like that 80 billion. We pay for that. We are going to do this. So sort yourselves out, kind of thing. It was quite an interesting letter.
Well,
read the lines.
I think that the FAA for so long has been like the gold standard, or the world leader or whatever. But I see the dysfunction kind of rippling around the world. People that are, let's say, CAAs that are still following the FAA lead. I think the wallpaper, the veneer is starting to peel, because this just shouldn't happen. I mean, what were you busy doing? Maybe they were busy trying to clean up that Boeing mess, which, the aviation press here in the United States wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, man. You cannot say anything negative about the FAA, or people get at the FAA get upset. And I'm pretty much at the point where, remember, Gary, we need data, Well, there seems to be a lag on need and data and formulating a plan or rulemaking that makes sense. Because, if we were doing this RID thing, remember, and we were talking about all the problems with 5G and the cell phone networks and the hassles with the, Fourth Amendment and all the rest of it. I mean, you knew it was coming. You knew it was a problem. I just see the guy, pounding the square peg through the round hole. They got that over there.
Yeah, that's an international phrase, I think. Yeah, it just, to me, I think the FAA, having been given 2 years notice, starting on November the 21st last year, that's just contempt. To me, that's contempt of the FCC and the system. And as we know, all around the world, the most powerful people ain't your aviation regulators, they're your radio regulators. They're way more powerful. And it just shows contempt, and it's unbelievable. Now, people might think that, what has all this got to do with us, really? Well, to me, it just underlines that they're not thinking correctly, and the FAA are easily turned by vendors at shiny things. Look, there's a shiny thing over there. Look at that. And oh, by the way, when you leave, if you'd like to come and work for us, we'll give you a hell of an off ramp. And that, to me, it seems to be all it is all day long.
Well, that and I mean, it's the same deal with Dan Elwell going to Joby Aviation. The guy leaves under this like dark cloud of problems with Boeing. He's got to resign. They throw him under the bus, and he runs over there. And you see all of these IPOs and the flying cars, and we're going to have flying cars next year, and they're going to be in Paris flying around, and all. I don't really believe any of that. And the only way that's going to happen is, if they just like cut the air regulations and chuck them out the window and say, hey, let's go. And I think that UTM is dashed. The 5G thing is going to be a fly in the ointment. Everyone was talking about, 5G and the data, and it'll allow us to do all of this. Well, you know what? I just spent, 6 days in the woods with only voice on my cell phone. That doesn't sound very aviation-y. And, if you believe in this whole climate change thing, more and more natural disasters, hurricanes, windstorms, fires, blizzards, whatever, and the networks go down. So, is just aviation going to go down for, some period of time? Maybe it will. I don't know. We've had a lot of flights canceled here, because of coronavirus or the new variant or whatever, shortages and, variety of different reasons. So maybe it's an end of an era. I don't know.
Yeah, at the end of the day, and I'm going to stop this rant shortly, but I think a line needs to be drawn under how aviation's been done for the last 100 years, or particularly really the last 30, 40 years, I suppose. No, you can't say 40, because 40 years is only the 80s, isn't it? So like 50 years, for the last 50 years. And say, right, let's reimagine the sky from the ground up. Fresh bit of paper. How will we do it today? Vendors, military vendors, you're not allowed in the room. The rest of you, you're not allowed in the room. People just think about how we're going to make this safer. And I think we could have a much safer sky with a much simpler systems than we've currently got. And it needs to be done, because how we're doing it now is not suitable. And I'm glad Patrick's here, because when we started SES News and back in the day, there was a USAF document, and I'm going to get the year wrong. It was either 2046 or 2047 that it referenced. 47 was it? And we used to joke.
100-year anniversary of the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah. Well, we used to joke that document was probably how it was really going to be. And everybody back at the time, and every time we joked about that, and all the people that were looking for VC money and all that stuff really just threw their toys out the cot, where we said, no, this is how it could. See this document here, 2047, that's how it's going to be. And blow me down if that isn't how it's rolling out. But I think it's in a lot of ways, it's not even fit for that. It's not even fit for that USAF document at the moment. We're not even heading at that.
I like your idea, and I have heard some good ideas. I'm going to say, I mean, I always talk to people, and I've been hearing some good ideas on how to save general aviation. I like Happy New Year, Gary.
Happy New Year.
Cheers.
It's brought to you by Striped Horse. Striped Horse. Yes, it's a zebra.
Sounds good. It sounds good. Now, it has changed, since the 70s, here in the United States, especially like in states like California, there's been a boom in building, and, most of Southern California is a town. In the old days, if you had a problem with your aircraft, you could bring it down somewhere and maybe not crash into a dwelling unit or whatever. So things like that have changed. Some of the concepts and I think social norms and whatnot have changed. But I find the ad hoc additions to be counterproductive. Again, I don't want to harp on the inclusivity thing, but most of the, let's say, legacy aviation community is just laughing. Notice to air mission. What's this? You've got such bigger, chubbier fish to fry. You've got, next gen never really materialized. You've got, a decline in general aviation. You've got safety decline in general aviation. Supposedly this drone thing is mushrooming, which I just don't see the mushroom thing anymore, which is another thing. We started to see that years ago and started to ring the bell, right, Gary? Remember, you were like, uh-oh, I think we might have seen peak drone. And what's been the result of that? Or why has that happened?
Absolutely. Well, that's a good way of segueing into. Did we all see the Sony Air Peak drone that released video today? Did we see that?
I
It
haven't
looked
seen the new video.
fantastic.
I've seen posts from someone who owns one, but I haven't seen the Sony video today. So
It's Sony gave it to a couple of content producers that are famous in America or whatever, but it looks really, really, really slick. It looks really nice.
it does. However, user feedback is very different.
Is
at
it?
the moment.
Okay.
Yes, and there's a gentleman who started a Facebook group who's bought one, and flight time is very low, and they're also experiencing quite dramatic issues with range. And I'm not talking they can't fly over 10 kilometers. I'm talking they can't fly over half a kilometer, let alone anything else. So it's stuff that is giving them problems, and it's not just distance, because they're then having problems with it in penetration around buildings and structures. Now this could be something Sony can work on. Early doors, they're behind the curve. They're starting where everyone else was in 2014, and it's hard not to say this is a 2014 drone with a 2022 camera on it. And that's the basic reality of this.
Oh, so you've got some opinions then?
Yeah, and okay, you can't. It's to step into this market today.
Yeah.
If we look at the last two entrants into not the commercial drone market, but just the drone market. So Skydio, to be fair to them, they delivered a very good product that works out the box, and everyone's fairly happy with it. Autel have done the same thing. Now these aren't big commercial products, but they are products that deliver on what they're intending to do. Now, Sony have walked in with a large commercial drone in a time where that everyone is sort of moving away from that. You've got the likes of Alta and the other big manufacturers who are the go-to places for the big aerial houses. They've been buying Altas for years. They're going to keep doing that. But for Sony to walk in with something that looks very nice, I'd love to try it, but it ain't going to cut it if the guys can't see what they're doing at 400, 500 meters, and it's a camera drone. It needs to be able to. Professionals need to be able to see the footage.
Well, you mentioned Skydio. What do we think of the Skydio 2 Plus? Also come out today.
It's a bit of a strange refresh, isn't it?
Well, yeah. If they've nailed that software and some of the stuff they're showing in the videos, it's a niche within a niche within a niche, isn't it? There's lots of cleverness in that.
They've added aerials, so the reception is better. So it improves.
Yes.
They've added 2 vertical aerials, so it almost, in some ways, that's an admittance they compromised the design on the first drone in some ways, because if you're having, when you're adding them on the top, it sort of says we didn't get it right the first time. We're going to have to change it now. I think it's a nice product.
Funny enough, I didn't think that those antennas. I thought, well, that's a solid way of doing it, and not trying to hide it away and pretend you've got a magical mythical system, but
I think
you what it is.
Clearly had to go back to that, because it's not got them where they wanted to be, has it? If you look at on the one, it's not got them what they wanted to do. It's not untidy. It's nice. They fold down. It's a good idea. I don't see an issue with it. But the problem is when manufacturers start doing that, you sort of think, well, they didn't want to do it the first time, or they didn't think it was an issue the first time. So they've had to improve it, because the range was, again, pretty poor, especially for a drone which is designed to chase you around on a motorbike or a field or something like that, but yeah, it's nice to see a refresh.
Is the camera better on it?
Is it available in Europe yet? That's the question.
I don't know. That's I know it's in Australia and New Zealand, the traditional Five Eyes country, but I'm not sure that the UK is now a traditional Five Eyes country. But anyway, I think you might have removed yourselves from that. But Patrick's going to pull one up now and say, the price point is $8,000 plus $2,000. That must be the Sony.
I don't, I think the elephant in the room is, people that are putting out drones, and even Sony. Sony's got a lot of money, although Sony, I think, rested on their laurels and kind of maybe gave up the lead. But the elephant in the room, man, is the amount of money that's been invested in DJI. People, it's, but the bottom line is, there's been over $1 billion purportedly invested by a sovereign fund in China. And then that latest ding that we got here in the United States with, you're supporting, I don't know if it's only slave labor or human rights abuses. I mean, at this point, I don't even get that. I mean, we got companies that have built empires, the shoe companies like Nike and Reebok and whatever else, and they're penalizing a drone company, but by and large is heavily mechanized production. I don't get any of it, and I don't get these companies that are upstarts that are trying to. I think they think that $150 million is the magic mark. You put $150 million in here, and you're going to get a DJI quality drone. You're $1 billion late, and do you think that that's in that product? I do. I think it's even more comical here. We're like, well, we have to catch the Chinese. The kids have got to learn STEM so we can catch up to the Chinese. I mean, remember just a few years ago, Gary, what people were saying about, Chinese technology?
Absolutely. But there's a very sort of, it's the same in the UK, it's the same in a lot of places. There's a very arrogant, so we're leaders anyway. We were ahead of them all. Like, no, you never were. Never were. Nor were we. Never were.
British never were. We had the biggest car industry in the world next to the US for years, and the US managed to hold on to theirs, whereas the UK didn't. And yet everyone looks back, when Britain used to build things. We built shit cars. We built the worst cars in the world.
But they were pretty nice. There's some real classics that came out of
shocking. How many TVRs arrived with a fish under the carpet or something under there because someone decided they got upset that day? We weren't, we like to look back and say we were the best. We really would. Chinese.
The problem is, this is probably universal. Is at the time we had technology, so our steam technology, our coal, our industry back in the day. What did we do? We sold it off. All that stuff. Oh, we can make some money by selling it to those guys over there. And they're going to still keep buying stuff we make with the same machine. Making a machine that makes the machine is the hardest bit. Once you have that, you don't need anything else. And they did that. They bought, we literally sold our tech off. We gave our tech away in the UK. After World War II, the jet engine, we gave that away to our friends.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Never give your jet engines to America. Never do that.
Yeah, we
never do that.
Tech away. We sold our tech. We deserve where we are now because we are, I'm going to say the word lazy, but that's maybe a bit harsh because we just want to make a quick buck. Everything we do here, we run into the ground. If we have something, so our council has a nice building, for example, and they use it for weddings, for example, what they do is they run it into the ground and then they sell it off because the money they've made, they don't reinvest. No UK company reinvests in itself very well at all. I used to work for a major distribution one. They would run the lorry fleet into oblivion and go, suddenly we've got no lorries that work. Then they have to go out and find trailers and everything. Well, if they kept buying 2 or 3 a year and kept up with it, that'd be great. We're just very good at running stuff into the ground and flogging it off for money. Look at our water industry. Saudi megacorps open now and rich funds. We don't because we wanted that quick buck. We are terrible. And
but we can pull that back to China because they tend to have a 100-year vision, and that's where they move stuff is with 100, and that will make stuff work. If your vision is only until the next election or till you're no longer the CEO of the company, then you've had it. You've got to have that
Yeah.
long vision.
We have
and-
a 5-minute vision. We have 5-minute vision.
Patrick said something interesting on DJ. Yes, and what people forget is that they've come a long way. If you look at where the products were in 12, 13, 14, that's where a lot of those guys are today, is where they were. They've had a massive amount of money, they've had a massive amount of sales, and they've had a massive amount of development going on in the background to get them where they are. And it's a head start. There's no question. And for Sony, Sony especially, for Sony to walk in to this industry with the likes of the mature technology we've got, you've got to be bringing something to the table. Now, Sony will catch up quick, because what Sony did in the camera industry was very clever. For those who followed it, they went digital almost before anyone else, and they were really bad. They were really bad at it, and the cameras were really bad, and everyone professional went, we don't want that, it's a load of junk. But Sony just kept making them and kept working on them and kept working on them, and everyone else, and specifically Canon and Nikon, the two big ones, just ignored it and said, no, we're not going to go that. We're going to keep making DSLRs. We're not making this mirrorless nonsense. And Sony kept plugging away. But once they got it to work, just like when the light bulb was made, people find out he found 1,000 ways how not to make a light bulb, but what was important was the one way he found how to do it. And once you've done that, you're ahead. And that's what DJI have done. The problem is Sony aren't in that position with drones. They can't walk in and spend 5 years catching up, because they won't have an industry. They're going to have to catch up very, very quickly to deliver a product. Hopefully what people are buying today can be upgraded, improved. And because there's a lot of people who like Sony. Let's be realistic. Sony is a brand many people love. I love Sony. We've all, for those who've grown up with Sony, the Walkman, the products, there's something about owning a Sony product has always been good. So, if anyone can, they can. But they have been in trouble for a few years. Financially, they're not on the best of footing.
Again, I think it's an economy of scale thing with China. I mean, not only are we lazy or whatever, people are looking for profit, and they're looking like, a good example is your Apple products. I mean, this thing was really expensive, and isn't, to me, it's all a gimmick, man. But they want to make 1,000% profit. You are not going to do that in the first, let's say, in a first world country. Too many environmental laws, too many labor laws, whatever else. And again, even Sony going after DJI, if they think they're going to go after them with an investment of $50 million or something, they will never catch them. The other thing is I just don't know that the market is here. It's the same. I want to go back to what we originally
niche.
Yeah, we were talking about 5G or whatever else, and people are still talking about drone delivery, and we're going to do this, and it's going to happen, man. And I got a workaround for the FAA, and it's like, no, you do not have a workaround. You guys have basically been throwing peanuts at this, because if you really want to do it, you're going to have to spend a lot of money. And some of the people, let's say like your Googles and your Amazons, have been throwing money at lobbyists to try and get things done. And really all they're doing, in my estimation, is pissing the FAA off, worse than I do. I mean, I that was, when the FAA changed the definition of astronaut the day that Jeff Bezos went in, newsflash, Jeff, they don't like you. And you spend a lot of money trying to push them around. So they're not spending the money in the right place. I think they're trying to go after, we're the 800-pound gorilla in the room. We want to do this, and you should let us do this. And that's not how it works. That's how I say it. And so again, the square peg round hole analogy, I don't see drone delivery. Everybody keeps telling me drone delivery is happening, but I'm sorry, within a mile, ride it over there on a scooter,
Well, no, it'd be rovers, ground rovers. They're already coming out in China now, aren't they? They seem to have cottoned on. The little ground rover, UK would suit something like the Star, what are they called? The Starship. Starships. They suit the UK better than they would America, because America, when you go to America, it's ridiculous. You just drive for miles. You want to go to a mall, it's just bonkers. Having been to America a few times, I just find people go, why aren't there roundabouts in America? Well, they have the space not to have every, you know what I mean? You have the space not to have a roundabout. You can put an 8-lane motorway somewhere because nothing matters. It's just you've got the space. A lot of communities, I would think they would make a great thing. So, deliveries in like big theme parks, a little Starship. Even then, that's the size of a city to the UK. Those places, they'll have the places, but last minute rover. That's what it is. These little rovers, and then it become Amazon lockers on wheels, where it'd be a proper truck when self-driving gets here without 5G, I predict. And they'll come and deliver your parcels for you and everything. And I think that's the way it will go. Drone delivery for specialist stuff like a hospital that is miles from the next one or the main hub, and it's emergency blood or organs, kind of makes sense. But for everything else, it's just going to be a 40-ton wagon that drives itself, or a 7-ton wagon that drives itself. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that, and I'm like when I went to China, there were piles of those, I don't know if they call them jump bikes or wherever in the rest of the world, but those
electric bikes.
Piles of them by the side of the road, probably 3 meters high, and you're like, wow, well, so many new companies got into it, were doing it cheaper or whatever else, or they had lobbied the government better or whatever it was. So same thing here, even if you have these little things and people are walking down the sidewalks and there's congestion, or these drones are falling out of the sky. And that's another one too with the certification. You think drones are expensive now, everyone? When they're certified, and we talk about the technology of 2014 or 2013, it's going to be that snapshot time. So you're going to be buying the $10,000, I'm throwing telephone numbers out here, but the $10,000 Phantom 2 Plus Pro, and that'll be your certified drone that you'll have to use for whatever. And it won't be that. It'll be something new, of course, but like the 172, the Cessna 172 model, it'll be something that you'll have to, use forever, or you buy a new certified one that costs God knows how many millions of dollars to certify. And I think that's the same thing with the UAM thing. These guys, the designs keep changing, and they keep saying, well, we're going to get type certification. It's going to happen. Remember what happened with AeroVironment and Institute, Gary, when they got their provisional TCs?
Absolutely. They were lucky. Both of them were lucky because of the Sandy Wars. They happened to have developed stuff, and then the FAA just waved them through the door. I can't think of an analogy. They just allowed it to happen. So they were flipping lucky. It wouldn't happen again now. On that sort of topic, we are flying tomorrow morning another delivery drone from China that has magically gained in the manufacturing process 1.2 kilos of extra weight on its fuselage, which has taken its useful payload down by 1.2 kgs. And the Chinese are just saying, oh, well, no, it'll be all right. Just fly it harder. And it is pulling out of a lot of amps. But when it comes to certification, that it just won't happen. The FAA, the CA, and everyone else will say, right, give us 10 airframes. We're going to weigh all 10 of them, and they better all be within 6% of each other for weight and stuff like that. So a lot of the industry is just not ready. It's just not ready for it. It doesn't understand. DJI will be all right in some ways, but you're right. The cost of getting it through that. We are just having testing now on all electronic equipment. Has got to go through an independent government testing body here now, in addition to the international standards. So all our electronics here are going to go. It's super expensive.
Yeah.
So,
and those costs. This is again when people in various forums. Egan's such a curmudgeon, he's a downer, and it's like, because I'm not a wishful thinker. Unfortunately, that's been beaten out of me by 50 plus years on the planet. The reality of the situation is People are not going to let you go and do what you want to do in, let's say, an existing ecosystem because you have a cool cell phone app, man. It's just not happening. Or I've got a transformative democratization of, some other digital twin or whatever you've got. Not happening. There is a process to get in here. You're not really doing it. And what I see even in the drone world is they play games with these people. They lead them on, and they lead them to believe that, yes, their cell phone app is going to be the key to cracking open the NAS or whatever. And then they get some VC funding guy to give them $10 million, and they go around and play games with CAAs around the world until they run out of money. And whatever destruction they've done in this period of time, the rest of us is left here picking up the pieces. And, and I hate to harp on it, but that Section 336 thing, that to me was a line in the sand. If you're going to go after the modelers, you better have I want to see some hard data. And nobody said that. What they said was, oh, you want to use my cell phone app to throw these guys under the bus? Okay, let's do it, or the 250 grams, or, there's been multiple examples of folly that will hobble this industry for the foreseeable future. And
the trouble is, it's a revolving door situation for people in those companies. They come in, they kick up a fuss, they get a load of rubbish through the system and change whatever it is, and then they're off again, and they're gone, and they're out of the system.
Some other, they get tired of the money and the prestige over there, the private jets and the Cristal champagne. I'm just leaving them out, and I'm going to go to some obscure startup, and you'll never hear from me again. But I've just, was in here like a bull in a china shop and wrecked the whole thing.
You've seen that Altarians, sorry, Patrick, but Altarians lost their C-level person or whatever it is, has gone off to the people that make the Trinity. So there's something afoot there. I don't know if people have noticed that, but they're all, and all the time Rev B, they're all milking investors. So. But you just see, as I say, this revolving door thing, leaving a trail of destruction. And what's really, and it is overdue now, as I say, is a clean sheet of paper. How are we going to do this? Doesn't need to be like this. Drones are digital aircraft. They're going to comply much easier with whatever standards you put in. Let's find a way of bringing manned aviation into the fold, as it were, and that probably will save GA. I think a lot of not urban air mobility, but I think a lot of delivery drone use cases could go into small airfields and help keep them open.
Well, even that, Gary, I think you're going to need automation. I don't see drone delivery working until you have, one pilot controlling 100 drones, dropping off, aspirin and crisps and tea and candy or whatever, right? So that's going to require an air traffic control system or a UTM system that meshes with the existing system. Good luck.
Absolutely.
Good.
And the reason you're going to struggle with that is because the existing vendors don't want to give away their very siloed way of doing business. The existing people selling radars, people selling the communications, people. They overcharge dramatically for what in a modern networked world would be a really quite a simple system.
Well, that's what I was talking about, the existing ecosystem. Okay, the NAS or the airspace is an existing ecosystem where you've had people have spent, probably trillions of dollars, to carve out their domain, and you think you're going to roll in there with a cell phone that you spent $5,000 developing, you're I don't know what you're smoking, but it must be good, and that's all I'm going to say. So you're spot on with that one, Gary. And until I think even the GA or legacy aviation, besides the airlines, I think you're correct, and things have to be done to save GA. It's like the pond that keeps shrinking. And people are trying to get defensive about this pond as it just keeps shrinking. And now, I forget, there was a total of how many aircraft are out there, GA aircraft, and it's under 300,000, I believe. So the numbers are trending down.
Now, did we all see? That's making me think of something else that really properly annoyed me in this last week. Did we all see the Trevor Jacob video? That's the video where the bloke jumps out of a serviceable aeroplane saying, oh, it's going to crash. The engine's failed. Oh. And funny enough, he has to have a GoPro on every angle. And if you watch the film carefully,
looks rigged.
When he cuts a film, if you watch him flying in, he flies over a load of fields and he's only gone a few yards beyond them. And he was at like 10,000 feet. He easily had enough height to get back to the fields. There was a riverbed beneath him. Look, he deliberately crashed an aircraft. The FAA should be jumping up and down on his head very, very, very hard indeed. He should be in prison, in my opinion, right now. If he gets away with that, so this will be the week that the FAA has lost the cell phone companies, and if they don't jump on him, then they don't care about safety. They don't care about it.
No, they don't.
I watched the
Safety
video.
is a job.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've not flown a manned plane, but I know that if you've got height, you can get somewhere. And yeah, it's interesting how he rigged every camera shot, wasn't it? But where was the shots of him trying to restart that engine? Because if I was the FAA, I'll go, I want all your cards, all your data, especially the inside shots, because you filmed everything, so I want to see what you actually did.
Do you think those SD cards still have all the
no, of course
all
they
the
don't.
footage?
No, of course they don't. Some got damaged or got lost.
Yeah, it's a big safety thing. I bet Ian hadn't seen the video. I thought that would have been the sort of thing he'd have.
I haven't seen much the last couple of days because of everything.
Because of your human malware.
My human malware. No,
just an extraordinary lapse of safety. So that is a person who's allowed. Okay, it was in the wide open spaces, but who's to know that dear old aeroplane wasn't going to fly off and hit someone?
It's you never start with the risk of causing an incident. In the UK we have a law against it. Do you know what I mean? That would be 241. It would just simply fall under that. And risk endanger other people's lives, property, or anything. Anything could have happened. If he'd have hit a squirrel, you are breaking the law. You have done something wrong if you caused it intentionally.
The worst thing that could have happened is he had a fire. If that got caught on fire where it was, if he had caused a fire where he was, oh my, you would have lost those valleys in no time at all. That was,
Well, the other, it kind of invalidates the old, we keep hearing about, why manned aviation, they're allowed to crash or whatever you want to call it, have mishaps. They've got skin in the game.
Yeah.
So, the person on the ground and the dwelling, do they have skin in the game? Or are they, I think this is, again, going back to that clean sheet of paper concept that you have, Gary. That may have worked in the 1950s here in the United States because there was plenty of open space where you could, crash and not kill anyone or whatever. But that's kind of we got the population's growing and a lot in Europe and whatever else. And so I don't know that the skin in the game argument really holds as much water as it did 50, 60 years ago. Plus, as somebody that dwells on the ground, I got skin in the game too. And I watch YouTube and I see some stupid shit. Just like this guy crashing the plane, even with the drones, I watch my local news. I got drone 10 or whatever. They're flying over the freeway. They're doing whatever they want to do. So the FAA, without any or any CAA for that matter, with the just minuscule effort, could find people and investigate them.
If they jump at them hard and quick, and they should have already issued a statement. The video's still up. If they don't do that, someone else, they'll keep going until someone dies. Someone else will copy that. They'll be copied and copied and copied. But yeah, that really did annoy me this week when the drone industry's doing its best to be compliant and is generally pretty jolly safe for the number of hours flown. And that's just lunacy that somebody could do that. And I also think that the wallet, I can't remember the name of the company that sponsored it, but the CEO of that company needs to be pulled into for that investigation, because he paid for that video to be made. He paid. That chap, what's he called, Trevor Jacob, must have run that idea up the flagpole when they were talking cash. So part of the chain, you can't. Or maybe am I just being a very old man? I wonder if I'm just being very old. But you're just not on.
It seems to be a thing on the YouTube, that people that destroy things that are expensive or spectacular or whatever get tons of views, and people like and subscribe to their channel, which I'm going to ask everyone, like and subscribe right now.
Yeah, hit that bell.
Because all we're destroying here is the career, it's spectacular. No, unfortunately, you either, you have to destroy something. It's got to be, expensive and big and something that's exciting, or you got to show some skin. And I'm sure nobody watching this wants to see any of that. So just like and subscribe on your way out.
Just exactly. And talking about destroying stuff, Matt mentioned, Ian, you had a very good video about the LiDAR. Did you destroy the LiDAR, or did it go back in one bit?
It's here to go back. It hasn't actually gone back yet. It is here to go back. It's still attached to the rover. Actually, the rover's behind me. Actually, you can. Oh, look at that. The microphone's right in the way. Well, there it is.
Proudly South African product, that lightweight LiDAR.
Yeah. It's a very good piece of kit, and it's part of a puzzle, which is the ArduPilot software as well. When coupled with it, and they're not cheap, in the sense of they're not cheap for hobby users. I will say for anyone doing research and development, 400-500 quid, that's the cost of a toilet roll when you're doing that stuff, isn't it? So it's overall, a very good bit of kit. I would love to have more options about building an aircraft with it in permanently. I know ArduPilot has done a lot more work on the object sensing and avoidance as well. And the nice thing with LiDAR is, whilst everyone keeps saying cameras are the way forward, if we look at the likes of the car technology, it's all gone cameras, it's all that way. You can't beat a proper type sensor like a LiDAR, which is basically pinging. The full intents and purposes is radar.
How does it compare in price to, say, like a Velodyne or something like that?
Oh, much cheaper.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes here. The name of this company?
LiDAR, lightweight LiDAR, South African company, and it's a very good bit of kit. Yeah, lightweight. And SF45, and they're good bits of kit. And a lot of people are using the Intel RealSense cameras now, and they're using things like you're using.
Didn't they stop them, those?
Well, no, they're still around. You've still got them around. You've still got the newer versions, and they're buddying them up then with something like a Raspberry Pi, and you're using software sensing. But again, as the bigger political question has been around Tesla and their self-driving, software can only do so much, and a camera is having to recognize differences in scenes, whether it be vision, whether it be lighting levels. One of the biggest criticisms of DJI's newest object sensing on the Mavic 3, and it's always been contrast based. I think people forget that the object sensing needs to be able to distinguish you from the background you're on. And if you're standing there in a green t-shirt with a green set of trousers on a field, it's not going to follow you, whereas LiDAR would, and that's the advantage is.
Funnily enough, the machine we're tuning tomorrow is for LiDAR, but anyway, that's another story.
So question though, because even the human eye can be tricked, and we don't see everything that's there, because the human eye is completely fallible. LiDAR, you have to be able to tell the LiDAR what that object is for it to know that it avoids that object or it doesn't, because it won't. Distance.
LiDAR's less sophisticated than that. Is there something in the way?
Yes.
Not what is in the way. Is there something in the way? Yes. No, that's it.
Yes.
And it reacts based on that.
Yeah, which is brilliant. Now, the question is, though, for cars that do rely on cameras, if that car design saved, let's say, 10,000 lives a year, but cost 2 or 5 or 10, what number do you suddenly go, oh, cameras aren't good enough? At what point? So, like you can't say LiDAR's going to be perfect either, because there'll always be ghosts as well. It might detect a fly and go, oh, I've got to stop, and it hasn't, and then somebody shot the back. So at what point, it was my question, at what point do you go, okay, we don't mind, because this is how manned aviation seems to work to me. We don't mind if we lose 10 pilots a year or 10 people a year, but if we saved 10,000, that's brilliant. But that doesn't seem to be the way it works. You know what I mean? There seems to be, we expect machines, we expect technology to be so much, not as good as a human, better.
I think the problem
isn't there yet.
Yeah. But the problem is when you suddenly are selling a plane.
Oh, look at that. Live from the field.
Oh,
he's live.
Is our reporter in the field?
It is.
Don't we own that shed, Gary? I thought we owned it.
Yeah, we do. And you missed that at the beginning. You missed it at the beginning when I explained how we bought Tokoroa 2 years ago, and you refused to get the model club to go, and you've only just started talking about it in November.
Oh no! Can you see?
Yeah.
Can you see?
We can see. Yeah, you're who's there? How exciting! It's pretty cool. I would love to go there one day. I really would.
There's Ron and Bill and John, and it's much nicer inside because it's pretty hot today.
Excellent.
Oh, rub it in. Rub it in.
And when's the oh look, no, Southern Hemisphere uniform. When's the video coming, and what are we going to be seeing?
Which video?
Your one that you're making today, plainly. Or you're just mucking about?
Probably tomorrow, I would think. Yeah, something like that.
And are they also parking on the unmown grass and using the unmown grass today, or did you mow more?
Yeah, they're on the unmown grass again. I don't know what's wrong with them. I'll mow the whole lot. That'll fix them.
How's he doing this? I didn't realize the Nokia 3310 had Wi-Fi and had the capability of streaming.
I've taped a GoPro to it.
With a cable.
Have you still got the COVID, Ian?
I still have the human Matway, yes.
See what you did, you git. It made him start. He's been fine the whole time till you come along. Could have been typical. Well, what's your quick take on what happened with the 5G in America? We spoke about it at the top of this, but I'm pretty shocked with it.
Yeah, they've changed their mind, haven't they? They've given them more time. It's stupid. Why don't they? I mean, the government and the USA couldn't organise a fart in a bean factory. They've got all these different agencies, all with different priorities and things, and it's like, what a mess. The aviation should have to go and suck it, because it's not a problem that is, nothing's on their reserved frequencies. It's off band. So they're the ones who have to put it right.
Absolutely. And then we were just finished talking about that Trevor Jacob video. That got me really angry this week, the chat with the aircraft. I don't know. I was expecting a reaction video from you about that.
Yeah, well, I did. I was thinking about Every Man His Dog's done a reaction video, so yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realise Patrick Stewart flew drones. Yeah, he does, and there he is. He's not only, and he's part of the Enterprise out the back. Big
just say number one. Make it so.
Make it so. Yeah.
Engage.
I don't know. What else? We
were on about the cameras. And I was just going to say, I think the biggest problem, Mark, on cameras is at the moment you tend to have two cabs. Ardra has a very good solution for a lot of stuff like this, which is the EKF, which you're feeding multiple data from multiple sensors, and then you make decisions based on that. Whereas I think the biggest issue right now, and Tesla and others have been, people are hedging their bets one way. They're pegging their mast and they're going, we feel cameras is all that's needed. This is the way forward. And vision sensing is likely to be the most advanced, but like anything, the most advanced stuff can be tricked, and you can't beat simple solutions.
So this is my point, right? Because you can trick the human eye, right? So my point is, you can trick the human eye. The human eye is shite, to be fair. It's very clever.
Bruce,
but it's
Bruce
also-
looks less than 140, and see, so it clearly it can be tricked.
Well,
I'm an opposite
you watch anyone do sleight of hand. You look at a scenery. Your eyes lie to you all the time, knowing what's real. What depth perception, for example, your eyes are crap beyond about 30 to 50 meters. Depth perception, your eyes are rubbish. You know what I mean? If you're flying a drone and you send it out to 50 meters and try and put it over a cone, you've got little no chance. If I didn't tell you how far it was and I just put the cone out there, you flying it and having it stop straight over the top of it, little to no chance. At what point, though, does the camera version have to be better than the human? You know what I mean? That's kind of how many lives have to be saved or not?
I don't know that you can. I don't know that you can just.
It's how you prove it, and how do you then. The big question for any company who then will take the liability on this is how do you say whose life gets saved? And that's the problem, because that's what this comes down to. Because you can sit here all day long and say, by introducing this technology, 100 people are going to be alive and only 10 are going to die. But if that's a different 10, then would have been part of that 100, and it becomes a very complex, messy beast for humanity to deal with.
Don't the needs of the many outweigh needs of the few? So if you say, if you can save 20,000 lives a year, or you lose 100, which one do you take?
Yeah, but if we got rid of cars, we'd save millions of lives.
You'd save
Exactly.
millions of lives.
This is where I'm kind of going with it. This is exactly where I'm going with it.
Bring back horses. That's what I say.
You know how bad that must have smelled? I think about that with the old West.
If you said horses, there's riders get thrown off a horse all the time. So okay, you can actually save.
So what you're saying? Shoot all horses. You saying shoot all horses?
He did say shoot all horses.
He said shoot all horses.
He did, didn't he? That's what he said.
If you got rid of all cars and you said, right, we're going to go to horses, and that's great, you're going to save millions of lives. But however, you're still going to lose 100 a year from those that get kicked off, kicked by the horse, thrown, or whatever. You're saying, by your analogy, that basically that's not good enough.
Well, no, these are decisions for governments, not companies. That's the problem. Today we have companies trying to make those decisions, and the reality is it is legislation, regardless if we agree with it or not, that always ends up setting the track for this. So, for instance, driverless cars. If there's a point where you can argue it is safer to take the squidgy bit from behind the wheel, no company can ever be the person to make that happen. It will always have to be a government that decides that is best for the populace. But this is where we're at today with the likes of Tesla and others who are saying, well, Tesla specifically, self-driving is ready. Well, in their opinion, it's ready, whereas a lot of other people are saying quite different things, and there's even arguments to be said that Tesla are misleading people by saying what they are. I'm not saying that. I wouldn't suggest Tesla are misleading anyone. However, not that I've heard they're quite a litigious company in any shape or form. However, there is arguments to be said that by egging, it's that egging people on, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what the argument is.
Look at that. Increases crash rate by 59%.
See, now if that's true, that's scary, and therefore, because it's a high, it increases the chance by 59%. You'd say that's just not right. It's like
you could argue, though, are those 50 or are those people doing things that wouldn't normally be expected? Because again, it's like anything. Oh, I'm going to climb into the back and see how good it is.
Yeah. And I think that's
win.
And that does seem to be the majority, not all of them, but the majority of cases that have caused this kind of problem is because the driver is stopped paying attention. Just because you put it in cruise or whatever, and it's driving itself, whatever, you still have to pay attention to everything. You are the backup system. If if that fails, you're meant to be the backup. Obviously, the backup is flawed.
I can reach the steering wheel from the boot.
Yeah, the body in the back. Today, I should be playing the victim in the boot of my car.
I should be the victim of my Tesla. It's going to drive me to the scene of the crime.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to tell it to take me to the police station and see what they say when I'm banging on the boot when I get there. Yeah. This is a we've moved off slight from the fact of that was quite a nice LiDAR you had there, Ian.
Yes, it
was. In your Rover.
Ian, would that LiDAR do for a self-driving buggy to deliver goods? Could you send your buggy to the local shop with some money to get? So why
and it will avoid objects on the way, and it will find its way around the objects en route. Yes.
So
help you avoid the.
He's done
it. He's done the video.
No, collecting his shopping? Collecting his shopping
from
the shop?
Collecting shopping.
That's what he has to do.
Milton Keynes have got robots that come to you. I don't need to send it to the shop. The Milton Keynes ones come to your house. I just nick one of them.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the LiDAR in that instance, in that use case, would be there for the child that's run out in front of you, or the football, or the car, or the whatever. And the dual RTK GPS is the thing that will be getting it accurately to where you are. It won't really be part of the navigation feed unless it's like the cruise missiles. You can always bring cruise missiles in this. Had a map of the world, didn't they? And use cameras to work out where they are. That's how they actually do navigation.
It's how they use Google Maps to get around. I like, remember the first Gulf War where you see the cruise missile flying down the street and then does a right at the end. I always thought that was rather clever.
Well, I don't know. Bruce obviously would have built that into his. In fact, where is you? Is it in there? Or has it gone on? What's happened to the cruise missile, Bruce? Has it gone on?
Where is it?
Pointing like that.
Let's see it.
Is it? Oh, is that it there at the back?
I gotta zoom in here.
Come on, give us a tour of the cruise missile. Can you show us the cruise missile?
Yeah.
Does he even know where it is anymore?
Yes. Coming to a place near you.
Oh, can you?
Did you deliver?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, it's we're going to be a few years thinking about the moral implications of all these. It's the flipping old railway switch dilemma, isn't it? And the best version of that one I've seen is you're all gotten it wrong because it always has you on the switch. And the best version I've seen of that is a bloke with a bag of money is on the switch. It's like that. Oh yeah, that's the actual reality of who's on the railway switch. It's the richest person.
Do we think we're going to see anything interesting at CES this year? Because obviously Skydio today have announced that. Orca are said to be doing some stuff tomorrow. It's a big day on the FPV side. Orca are believed to be they're releasing a new set of goggles, as everyone understands it, but the talk is of more digital systems. I don't think we're going to see DJI there. They don't really do CES like everyone else, do they? They don't bother, so I don't see them doing anything.
Oh, CES is if you win a prize at the CES, it's almost like the first nail in the coffin. I
thought about going because the transportation secretary was going to speak or whatever. But to be honest, I didn't think it was worth going to Las Vegas and being exposed to the coronavirus. So I was like, And I don't think we're going to hear anything groundbreaking.
No, I don't think so either.
We're going to see this cruise missile, Bruce. I got to go. So I got to see the cruise missile before.
No, another time. I'm going to go out. My battery's charged, so I'm going to go out and I'll my Wi-Fi reaches to the flight line. But if it does, I'll reconnect. And you can join the line.
Yeah, we'll join you on the flight line. That'd be great.
All right.
Thanks very much. Thanks, mate.
It'll probably freeze up anyway if I come out here. I don't know, because I'll disappear momentarily.
Patrick disappeared. Yeah. You made Patrick go away. He's still there?
He's still there.
No.
Look at the lovely sunshine.
Look at that.
Isn't it beautiful? I've got my hat behind. Oh, no. I have to go get your hat. I'll set up and come back. I'll leave you.
All right, mate. All right, we'll look at that. Ian, when are you getting a hold of the Air Peak? Says Mal, did we decide what we
Hands on the
what were we
Sony
gonna-
Peak. Yeah, that's probably not going to be happening after what I've said tonight.
Yeah, you
As
said
all
mentioned
manufacturers,
earlier.
that's another black ball in the. I'm very good at putting upsetting manufacturers these days. Yeah, Sony will be interesting to see. I think they've got a lot of work to do though, and they need to up their game on that. It's going to be interesting to see what does come out of CS. There's a lot of talk around Orca tomorrow because Orca are meant to be delivering some new FPV systems, which sort of transitions multiple segments and markets. You know, it's the ready to fly stuff, it's the FPV stuff, and it's military. And you know, digital FPV has suddenly become a very, very big thing for military as well. And this is the
Yes.
belief of where Fat Shark are now driving what they're doing. You know, for all intents and purposes, then they're not really selling anything to the or not really doing much for the hobby space right now, and all of Red Cat's talk is around delivering headsets for the military and stuff like that. And you know, this is technology the military would have dreamed of. You know, if we just look what we do have today, you know.
Funnily enough, I can't say too much about it, but I can tell you that there's quite a big machine that still uses 1.3 gigs in the clear and is not the video quality you would not be racing with. And it's quite amazing that there's stuff out there that is quite so old, and people are paying a lot of money for it as well. Here we go. Are we going to see? Is he? Oh, he's here. He's in the gazebo.
Yeah.
I see that. I saw the gazebo in your last visit. Is that now new additions to the fields?
Actually, is this the advert for why the FAA should allow the 5G?
5G, yeah. Well, they are going to have a 5G on Tokawa. That's right.
To everyone, this is why remote ID will not work with a mobile signals, because you can't get a signal everywhere, even on airfields.
But we've got to put this in context. I'm in South Africa. Ian's in Wales. You're in Eastern the UK, and he's in New Zealand. I mean, this would have been impossible 10 years ago. This would have been impossible. It would have been possible. It would have been possible 10 years ago, but it would have cost a fortune. Would have cost an absolute fortune. To do this. So it's pretty amazing. Ian seems to have gone, and I wanted to mention his article that he put up today that on SGS News. I've heard of that. I'm going to put the link in the side.
Sorry, my camera went a bit wrong. It did. I was just sorting my camera.
Here we are. I'm putting a link up to your article from today, which is about HT0, full steam ahead, while DJI are faltering, apparently so. According to Mr. Ian Lewis, I have no idea who that is. No.
It's an interesting situation because we had, and I spell it out in the argument. We had the world turned upside down, and when you go back 2.5 years when DJI FPV launched, it was groundbreaking and still is. The product is very, very good. You know, out the box, extremely polished, works. They did a year of development, but then it stopped. And you know, it is an interesting story when you look at the whole thing, because you had Fat Shark, who were at that time, and I'm using those terms on purpose, because I don't feel they are the market leader in FPV headsets anymore. I think Skyzone are there, and I think there are a few others too. But they were tripping over themselves to say, we're working on something, and it was based on HT0 technology, and it wasn't great. It was rushed. It was early doors. But then there's this whole story, which I didn't even touch on, which is Red Cat buying Fat Shark and Fat Shark seeming to have divorced from HD0. That's what it feels like. You know, neither party is saying anything about it. HD0 have just got on with it themselves. And what you can't come away from is how interesting and on board Carl is, who is the guy behind HT0. You know, he was working with them and that hasn't worked. So he's now gone to the community and gone, right, I want to develop this. And everyone loves an underdog story.
Yeah.
And look, I'll be blunt. There are still question marks. How does a company appear out of nowhere and develop their own ASIC? Carl is an ASIC engineer, but we don't really fully understand the background. And that's stuff that we'd love to understand more. But the reality is they have delivered a product that in the early days was falling behind, but today they've built a big community. It's growing, it's expanding, and they're doing everything right. Whereas the reality on the flip side of the coin is DJI is saying nothing. The product has hit this 2.5-year roughly age point where all DJI products fall into this crack. They've all been there: the Mavic, the Inspire 1, the Phantom 4, the Phantom 3s, the original OcuSync FPV system. They all fall into this point where DJI's interest has changed and they move on, and either there will be a new version or it goes to dust. And look, DJI used to make motors, flight controllers, and ESCs. They made some of the best motors and ESC packs on the market next to T-Motor. They were the frame, the 450 was the benchmark homemade quad frame. Yet they no longer do these things. So people, I keep seeing comments from people saying, "Oh, DJI won't do this." Don't ever underestimate what they won't do, because this is a tiny market for them. And the reality is the FPV system feels like it was a means to an end right now. And that was to develop the current OcuSync system that we have. Will there be a new one? Will there be anything? I don't know. But there's a point where when you're spending £600-700 on not a product, but an ecosystem, and that's the thing to understand with FPV, it isn't a product, it's an ecosystem that you require parts for moving forward. And the difference between that and a drone is if you buy a Mavic 3, for instance, today, and you buy 5 batteries, you will probably be okay for 4 or 5 years. Even if you dropped a battery, you've still got another 4. You're not going to need parts all of the time. FPV is different. We crash these aircraft all of the time. We break things all of the time. We need parts and availability. And people are now beginning to question that the product's 2 years old. Where's the support? There's no firmware updates anymore, other than stuff they pushed out that either I pushed them to do, among others, and Gary's got his beer and a few others.
That's
so,
fine. I've finished it now. It's just another advert for Striped Horse. Yes.
No. And it's interesting. So we've got 2 companies at the top of their game, and whereas one started in the lead, DJI, whilst have an amazing product, are not talking to the community. They're not fixing bugs, and there's no proof this product's going to be here in 12 months' time. And people are starting to ask the question, why am I spending £600 or dollars on this plus? And it's a very fair question. And I do think they need to come out and tell people. I know they're not used to doing that, but this isn't a market they've played in before.
Yeah.
You know?
And is there a feeling for the number of the units, those FPV setups that they've sold? Is it thousands and thousands and thousands?
It is a lot.
Or is it hundreds
I feel it. I don't know numbers, but it has been extremely successful because I still don't think there's a push that racing is very enjoyable. It's great, but it's a niche of a niche. Is racing and DJI have sold a product that fits for the most part the masses of FPV, not everyone, but the masses. So I suspect it's sold very well, but very well in the FPV market. They've probably sold more. What's the prop protectors? What's the term, Mark? I can't remember what the term is. For
stupid.
You know what I mean?
Squishy would say racing's stupid, but he is a chief proponent of crashing stuff.
Yeah,
but
fella. So I'm really pleased with how HD0 developed, and more anything, it's an underdog story where you've got the company who was starting out, and they tried to work with the manufacturer and it didn't work out, and now they're taking it on their own and they're developing and they're improving. And you know what? They deserve every success they have and are getting, because what they're doing is talking and working with the community. And that is what the community wants, and that's what the community is used to. And DJI need to be careful.
Well, the FPV needs that because it is such a niche within a niche within a niche. Yes. It needs that community to, if you're a vendor, you need the buy-in of a large number of that small community. Otherwise, there's no market for you. But perhaps Red Cat are selling out all the various little bit of this, little bit of that into the military, police and fire market. I mean, there's a lot more soldiers, firemen, and policemen than there are FPV guys. So
and FPV is the problem with FPV, and it's been an interesting 2 weeks because there's been Trappy's been talking a bit as well. Everyone knows who Trappy is, and I'm going to be careful what I say, but he's coming across a bit,
bitter and twisted.
Interesting. And there seems to be a lot of not anger, but pent up frustration in the FPV industry and the drone industry a bit. And it's coming from the second you release something, one of the Chinese companies is going to make it at half the cost and almost as good. And I'm not saying it's as good, but almost as,
Well, the problem is, if you go to China, right, and you deal with the Chinese, if you do not know they are going to copy that product within a week, right, more fool you. That's all I can say, right?
I think it's
more fool you.
I think it's not that they don't know they're going to do it, Mark. I think the problem is if you're a company that spends 2 years developing something and it is brilliant and it is doing it and it hits the market, and then within 2 weeks they've ripped it off. The problem with that is, whilst you know they're going to do it, that stifles innovation, because what then happens is you're not going to spend those 2 years developing it because you're not going to get your ROI, and that's where the problem is.
I completely agree with you, but if you don't have that component made in China, there's less chance of it being ripped off. A lot of these things is because they go to Chinese production where it's cheap. And look at the whole car industry, look at every industry. They all go to China and then they moan and cry because they get ripped off. Well, more fool then, because if you don't know who you're getting into bed with at that point, I'm sorry, I have my sympathy level.
But it's not even as simple as that. It's not even the cloning. There's multiple wars on multiple fronts for TBS, for instance, because you've got Express LRS that's growing at an extortionate rate. It's like watching Jack's beanstalk grow right now. This is, and it's literally, you've got a bunch of developers who are basically kicking everyone's bottom on RC Link, and it's open source, and it's Ardra again, it's Betaflight again, it's that whole story. And whereas you've had, if you think about RC control links have really been behind closed doors. You had FR Sky, you had Futaba, you had all of their own proprietary protocols. Now Express LRS have walked in and it's a bunch of developers saying we're going to make this work on a $2 chip that anyone can buy, and here's the schematic on how to make the receiver, and here's the software. And what's happened is all of the Chinese manufacturers have gone, we're going to start making radios that support that. And they're all getting on board very, very quickly. And now the likes of TBS, and not so much TBS, actually, TBS have a big market. I wouldn't want to be a Immersion RC and a FR Sky, because they could be ended by this. They really, really could. And there's a lot of wars on multiple fronts,
I mean, look at we lost JR Pro, didn't we? Which made some of the best radios you will ever hold. The JR Pro transmitters were like the best you could hold. They are so nice. They are so smooth. And, it used to be them or Futaba, maybe High Tech were there. And was it Swanya or something? But
Sunwa. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Futaba's still around. I'm surprised, with all these cheap products, Futaba's still around. They may charge 100 quid a receiver, 30 quid a receiver.
Yeah. They've got the old boy network though, haven't they? But the problem is the old boy network won't be around forever. And that's
you'll always have people. It's why would you buy a Rolls Royce over name some old cheap car? Still four wheels, Skoda or something. Still four wheels and steering wheel take you to the same place. So why would you ever buy a Rolls Royce? There's always going to be people that will buy the most expensive things, just because they always buy the most expensive things. But the actual market is really, really small.
And they've got a big US holding, haven't they? If you take Futaba in the US fixed wing communities and stuff like that, and in Europe, they've got that big holding in there where people like the quality and the feel. FPV is, and this is actually FPV's problem, it's a race to the bottom, and it's how it gets out of that, because the problem will be, and this is happening with the hardware, you've got receivers, for instance, on Express RS, which cost $10 delivered. So what is who's making money on that's free software, because they're not paying for the software, the manufacturers, they're not paying for the development. So they're
What's the
literally
range?
spitting out 35 kilometers plus.
So, sorry, can you say that again? I thought you said
$10,
35.
35 kilometers on 2.4 gigs.
Verkle Durkle.
And this is why the game is changing. And this
So
is
why doesn't, so it's like Trappy then, why doesn't you just get a load of those receivers, stack a little TBS sticker on it, jobs are good 'un.
You could argue he does that already, but no. No, TBS have got their own.
Play the game.
TBS will be fine because they are a good brand and I like their products. I use their radio. I use a number of them. But what's interesting is there is this problem in FPV where you've got all of this Chinese clone hardware. And I don't mean that negatively. When I'm saying Chinese clone, I just mean they're made in China, okay, by Chinese companies, not, say, TBS and those ones. And they're making products at the lowest possible cost, and they're fighting with each other now. You know, last, I think, month, we've had 3 radios released that are virtually all identical by 3 different manufacturers, and they're tripping over themselves for $25 or something like that. You know, this radio here, right? This radio here costs, I think it's £26. It has that Express LRS built in. You can buy a receiver for £10. It's a game style radio, and you can be up and running for 35 quid, right? And that is good enough to fly, and that will do.
I've bought receivers for that money in the past.
And that's the problem we're in now. And FPV has to be careful that it doesn't price itself into a hole it can never get out of. And I'm already seeing people saying, "Oh, that's been released for £100. That's expensive."
Does that have screw-in antennas? What does that have though? Just
built-in antenna.
Built in.
So it won't have. This won't have the best range. This will probably only do.
Is it LoRa or is it?
Yes.
It's LoRa.
Yes,
okay.
Express LRS is LoRa, and that's what gives it its outstanding performance. But
I bet you won't have to do much to that to completely obscure the antenna that's in there. You cut with hands or put your thumbs around, or
The funny thing is, this isn't the greatest radio in the world, but I actually really like it. I could throw this in my bag, 25 or 26 quid. I think you can get these for. Throw it in your bag. If it breaks, I'll buy another one.
And what is it?
It's
well, we should be awaiting your video review of it, obviously.
Yeah, they sent me that one a while back. I haven't, because they've released a version 3 now, so it's sort of pointless me. But this is the problem. They released it, and like 6 months, they released it and then sent me one, and then a period later, they've already made another one. And this is the problem with some of this stuff. Literally, if you don't review it the day it comes in, there's already a new one coming in a month's time.
Well,
but no, it's interesting times. It's growing. You know, the article I wrote to try and highlight the fact that things are changing, and there is a bit of a changing in the guard. And I don't know if anyone at DJI listens, but they need to start communicating with the FPV community, because they are getting turned off. But the question is, do they even care?
I shouldn't think they do they? I can't think that they do. And with that, coming back to that Skydio release, I thought what was quite interesting was the video that Skydio released that had compared to the Mavic 3 with the Skydio 2 Plus, and you wouldn't be allowed to do that in Europe or the UK to have comparison shots, because they weren't like for like. It was flying around the tree, but it wasn't the same tree straight away. But they're making some quite big sort of inferred claims on that video, and
it's a good product. Its object avoidance is better than DJI's, without doubt. But it's still limited, and they all are. And my only complaint with Skydio's advertising, and frankly, they deserve the kickback they get for it, is if they're going to show you flying it through the woods and trees like DJI, and they deserve the same kick in, it better work. Because that's what you're telling people it can do. And they're all guilty of over-egging this object sensing. As good as Skydio's is, and it's the best on the market, it doesn't mean it's perfect, you know.
And why hasn't DJI made an aircraft?
As in,
It's-
like the hotel thing, you mean?
And
Like the
well,
Dragon.
yeah, anything doesn't really matter. It could be just a
Parrot Discovery.
really
Parrot-
simple single engine tractor aircraft. Looks like
I
a
mean,
Cessna for doing mapping.
The Parrot did the Discovery, didn't they?
And they've got the EBs. You know, remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, the EBs. Yeah,
The
yeah.
EBs is theirs.
Well, it was. They sold it.
Yeah.
Belongs
I
to.
think they know it's not a big market. I think the truth of it is, if we look at it, is their game is always volume. If you look at everything, it's
Okay.
volume. And I just think it's not enough volume.
I'm surprised they've not done a light show drone yet, where you can buy, say, 10 drones. They can
Box
do a
of 10,
little
yeah,
light show,
box of
and
20.
then you can
yeah.
add to that fleet. You know, I'm surprised they've not gone down the light show ones. Like I say, you can start with 10 drones. It might cost you 20,000 or something, but you get the software to do your little things predetermined, and then you can buy another 10 drones to put in that, and it gives you more stuff. I'm surprised DJI have not gone down that route, you know, light displays and stuff like that, because that would be a big market. Yeah, so
Squishy's right about Sean's right about the market changing and news.
yes,
And I think we lose sight of the fact that a lot of people coming into it now won't have heard of Team Black Sheep, believe it or not. Won't have heard of this, won't have heard of that. And they'll come in. Sorry, go on, man. No,
I would say it was Trappy that actually got me into FPV. It was one of his winter flights. It was a fixed wing. And do you know, I actually prefer fixed wing FPV to multi-rotor FPV. I prefer fixed wing because you can just go. You can chuck the plane and you can have so much fun. You know.
But I think we've got to remember we know Trappy of old, because we're old dodderers. But that's the reason why. Youngsters coming in now will see the latest, whatever is being punted on YouTube right now in the FPV world is where they arrive and what they think the systems are, and that's that. There's no history to the people that come, and I do think FPVs bringing people in and then sending them out on up to normal radio controlled aircraft, and I think it's a great lead in to the hobby, and unfortunately the older people amongst us don't necessarily think that that's the case, but I do think it's a great lead into the RC hobby.
You watched the race, and I watched the multi GP when Evan Turner won, and I bloody enjoyed it. And I'll be honest, it is incredible how these kids are flying, how fast they're flying, how it is a sport. It is a sport I can see going on telly more and more, and I can see there being more and more money as we've got DRL and all of those things. And look, you have got the likes of these guys at Rotor Riot who are pushing that, and you've got some kids being made superstars here. And will they go on to do other things? Will they go on into other sports or other markets or other niches? We don't know. But FPV itself is it's a very low barrier to entry. And that's the best part of it. For a couple of £100 at max, you can buy something off the shelf and you're in the air and you're ready to go.
No, it's pretty inspirated. So I'd like the next article I'd like in is on what your opinion of Red Cat is and their positioning.
That's another black ball then.
I think we've already just consider that a given. It's just the way it is.
That's getting Ian subscribers up on YouTube, isn't it? Let's face it, Ian subscribers have jumped since it's been annoying these big companies. So he's got to keep it up.
Win.
By the way,
no one will talk to us or communicate with us on anything. However, we have more subscribers. Win-win.
Hey.
I blame Gary.
Blame me. But if just let me get this little tiny bit in. If dear viewer, you have got a drone company and you would like to get something in SUS News, just send it to me. I don't charge. There's no. All the others charge to put bloody articles in. If it's rubbish, they do. Everyone else has little fees and things, and just send it. I want content from the real people that are really in the industry and not the venture capital funded nonsense. Airspeeder, will it work in the future? You can go now. Mal, get your coat. Go on, get your coat. You're going home.
I did enjoy it. I will write a few more because I used to do a lot more of them on places like RC groups and stuff. These days I haven't had time, but I do enjoy. I wrote that one at 1:30 in the morning because I couldn't sleep.
Well, when I got it early in the morning, I was thinking, God, he's up late.
Yeah, it was COVID was keeping me awake, but I probably do need to put a few more out.
Well, I'll get you your ticket into Farnborough. You see, that's the thing. I'll be able to get you in there as a journalist. It's a great ticket. No, it's a great ticket in the week because you can go to all the I got in the room with Tim Peake and spoke to Tim Peake in one of the press things. That's it. It's like, oh well, that'll do. You know,
shaking his hand. Hi, Tim.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, and what's the name for the BBC? He said, and I saw you every 2 years at Farnborough, and you remember she recognised me and stuff. But there's like you get to go to the press area, which is it's above the crowd, of course, and it's air conditioned and there's snacks, and you can watch the whole show from. But I mean, that's not why I would ever go to that sort of thing. And I'd very much like to get the other Ian there, who also has COVID. It seems to be COVID time.
He can't go because he'll never leave, because he'll just get bundled in the back of a vehicle somewhere.
Well, that's why I want him to go, because I want him to go and speak to the all the counter UAS people that'll be there. It's like I can't remember which year I went, and one lot had all these their buttons marked 2.4, 5.8, and all this GPS jam. And I said to him, and the bloke was a bit taken aback. I said to him, how is that row of buttons legal anywhere in the world? How can you switch?
When it said L1 jam, that's just no. No. You're not allowed.
They were there. There was buttons on the gear. It says no. We identify stuff with the cameras, and then we fire the RF this way. It's like, hey, and they were swinging it around. They had it. We're going very off topic, aren't I? But they were tracking stuff taking off out of Heathrow. And I was saying, oh, can I switch that switch now? Can I? Let me switch that switch. Go on, let me have a go. Yeah.
Is that where you want to spill your drink on it as well, just to make it all go off at once?
Yeah. They were quite nice to talk to, but it just showed that, as we've said multiple times, you just put wires in a box and a couple of moving needles and some LEDs and some switches and a big guarded switch, then we've got a system, Done labels. Perhaps the labeling that we use is more important than any of the switches. Make the labels look really official and whatever. But yeah, no, there was a great article, and I encourage people to go and read it. And if you have something you want to contribute to SCS News, then please send it along. You are always welcome, dear viewers that are here. So what else are we seeing, boys, before we go?
The SDK, and everyone's loving the fact that Lychee may be for the Mini 2.
Yeah.
Beta testing.
How do people really fly waypoints? Who flies waypoints? Who? Literally, Louis and a couple of people. But you don't buy a Mavic Mini to fly waypoints.
No, you wouldn't. It seems to be they all want the follow me. I don't think they quite understand how follow me quite works with DJI. It will either track you kind of me, or it won't. And it's going to end up in a tree. I can see so many going in trees.
But won't that open it up to people like Drone Deploy and stuff like that? So you can maybe get tiny mapping missions or house survey missions done.
Well,
tiny ones.
If you can't manually fly something like that to do like a house roof, then you probably shouldn't be flying it anyway. It's so easy to do a house roof with the Mini. It's ridiculous. If you can't 3D model a building with it, a small building, it's crazy. You know what I mean? It's not hard to do. And anyway, if you're 3D modeling with the Mini, the data set you get's not amazing, to be fair.
I'm amazed that they haven't. I'm amazed that they haven't had a teaming mode, so you could have 2 or 3 of them. I don't know how long a Mini flies for, and they just 3 of them goes around a thing and say, "Here it is." This is the area. Well, 3 of them, 20 minutes, 3 of them. There's an hour's worth of data gathering.
I'd rather
tiny
I'm
mapping
still
over
take-
people.
I'm still going to take the Mavic 2 Pro, whether mine are.
I do understand that business users, yes, I get it, but there's loads of, you see, domestic people going, I want waypoints. Really? You don't need waypoints to fly around your block. What are you going to sit there and say, right, I want it to go to that house, and then that house. There you go, it's done it. Now what are you going to do? Do you know what I mean? It's not exactly fun, is it? You know, it's. But no, they have, the SDKs come out. Obviously, no Mavic 3 support, which is the big one. A lot of people will want. That's probably going to be 6 to 12 months off.
Yeah.
There is the big firmware update due for that, allegedly.
I
But there's no date.
was going to say, that's the next thing I was going to say. When is that due?
We don't know, because there was never an official date, and they pushed the initial update out early. I'm gonna my review. I've got 1 video finished. It looks like I'm probably only gonna have 2 reviews on the Mavic 3 because of human malware. You know, I couldn't go out over the Christmas period. I didn't want to do my final review in the workshop. I wanted it to be out and about, but there's a very real reality right now that I may end up having to sit here and go through it this week. Now I can talk properly. It's not going to be a big review. It's more, I'll be honest, I'm not even going to call it a review. It is going to be my thoughts, and that's it, because I've got a lot I've said on it, and it's a good drone, and I actually really want one. I really do, and I'm really tempted to get rid of the Mavic 2, but it isn't worth it. But I still want one. But there's a few reasons why I want one.
So here's something that someone has told me about the Mavic 3. I won't mention their name because I don't want that. So they're saying cine mode's not smooth and still, but also in a congested area, nothing works. Even if you want to use point of interest or track, when it sees it's in a congested area, it says you can only fly manual. There's no option available. And that's what I'm being told. I don't know if that's right or not, but some of the stuff.
Problem is, I wouldn't be. So if you're, how would it know it's a congested area if it's picking up multiple moving objects?
Well, I assume it's something to do with its GPS location, maybe, because they do a lot of this. This is a city operator. This is someone that's got a PDRA 01. They are a commercial operator. They fly in built-up areas all the time, like big cities.
I'm not aware of that, but then I'm not in a big built-up area or city to be able to test that either. Yeah. That's not something I've heard. I do know, interestingly, the early versions, the test versions, were masking people's faces.
Right. Sorry, let me just get that. Let me just change that slightly. Because they are disabled in congested areas and not just any traffic-controlled areas. So unless in the middle of nowhere and you're 50 miles from an airport, it looks like the self point of interest just isn't working. But they fly in a CTR a lot of the time. They are Manchester-based.
It might be that if they're in a zone, then the special features are disabled. Yeah, there's a whole host of all sorts on it, and of quirks, behavior. It's a good product, and it's got some nice features. I think it'll end up being the camera is. I've said it before. The camera isn't much better. I've got hours of footage which I recorded. I went out with the Inspire 3, the Inspire 2. Did I just leak something? No. The Inspire 2. I wish I had. The Inspire 2, the Mavic 2, and the Mavic 3. And I'll be honest, the footage between them is so close. It isn't even worth considering from a footage point of view. There's 2 reasons to buy the Mavic 3: flight time and the remote controller. That's it.
And that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I will not change. I have this fella, the 2 Pro, and I've got a 4 Pro. I have no reason to jump to the 3. If you've got an Inspire 2, you wouldn't run out and change.
What I would say is, though, it is very polished from the live feed, and when you fly it, you sort of think, "Oh wow!" Especially compared to the Inspire 2. If you've flown the Inspire 2, Lightbridge 2 is quite dated now compared, and when you start flying Lightbridge 2, and it starts breaking up and jolting and going all over the place. The live feed is phenomenal, and I mean,
in the drone world, it is dated, isn't it? What's it? 6-7 years old?
4, 5 now.
It's only 4 or 5, but that's like 300 drone years.
Yeah,
So,
and it was
yeah.
early, and it was early doors. It was the first product with it, and it didn't last long. Did Lightbridge 2? It got replaced by OcuSync very, very quickly. So it's a good product. But I'm hoping to get the video on that done. I'm not sure when Ben wants it back.
flight controller,
Flight
smart controller.
smart controller. The RC Pro is an utter joy. The software I don't like, but the remote itself, the screen, it feels such a nice package. Do you know what I mean? You open it up, you don't have to mess with putting a phone on it. The screen is fantastic. The live feed image quality is amazing. And in fact, the word I'll use, it feels like a Sony again, and it's very similar to the original RC, but it is very good. But again, as an upgrade, it's not a great value. But that's the same. I think we're hitting that in many drones now. The upgrade, the value of the upgrade isn't there, whether it be Autel, whether it be DJI, whether it be an iPhone. You have to look for the value elsewhere now. You're not going to buy a new drone and go, my God, that image quality is 20% better. If you can find 2% better, you're doing well.
Yeah.
K10 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, tell me what was the kerfuffle in a drone YouTube land that you referred to on your Sunday night show? For the people that don't know, Ian has a very, very good Sunday night show, and I can't even remember the name of the famous droney YouTubers that were causing it. But there's controversial videos apparently.
Yeah, now I missed some of this. My understanding is a video was put out by someone, not put out. I don't know the full story, but it was acquired by Ken Heron, who's got a big YouTube channel, and Ken published it. And I think that caused a bit of hoo-ha. He was asked, I don't think he was asked not to, and then Sean, who's in the UK, went on there. And I think Sean just felt he was a bit railroaded. Ken does a show. It's a show. You know, it's not just about drones. And Sean just felt he didn't like the direction it was going, and he just left, and he just walked off it. Or not walked off, but I'm done. And Sean put out his statement. I know Sean quite well, as I know Gary, and Sean's a really great guy. I've met Ken once. I went on his show once. I was very thankful for being given that opportunity, as I am here every week. He comes across as a good guy. I watched it and I sort of thought, I understand why Sean left. I'd probably have done the same thing. But Sean's in a different boat to me, because Sean has built his channel on promoting regulation and, in fact, arguing for regulation. And Sean just felt, I think, that what that was completely against what he stands for and didn't want to be part of it, basically. So there was a bit of hoo-ha, but I think they've all kissed and made up, which is good. You know, it's weird in this YouTube space, because there is a bit of hoo-ha at times. It does happen, and there is a couple of, groups of people is the term I'll use, and
gangs.
And Ken is, I don't know Ken at all. He comes across, the time I spoke to him, he came across professionally, absolutely fine, and he invited me on the show. I got no bad to say about him. I think Sean just felt he'd been put in a position he didn't feel was right. So, and he walked away, and you know what? Deserves a lot of respect for that. Huge amount of respect.
Always hard to do that, isn't it? Always hard to do.
Yeah.
And on that note, as the dogs are going absolutely ballistic outside, I'd better go and see what on earth is going on. Tentatively, I will go out and see what on earth's going on.
Last of the Gary, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, something is going on. I don't think it's flipping danger hedgehogs either. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you very much for watching wherever you are in the world. Look after yourselves. Don't be like the Ians. Well, no, if you are, for goodness sake, look after yourselves. And I hope has it hit your whole family, Ian, or is it just yourself?
Just me so far.
Stay in the shed. Don't go anywhere. You got your sleeping bag there?
No, I haven't been sleeping in here, but on all honesty, last week I've probably spent 14, 15 hours a day in here. And
Wow.
New Year's for me was the wife walked in at the door and waved at me and said, Happy New Year. That was New Year's.
and with that, the new tradition started. We call this a family tradition. All right, I better go see these dogs. Look after yourselves, everyone. Take care. Wash your hands, wear a mask. Be safe out there, and we'll see you all again next week. Cheers for now. Bye-bye. Cheers, eh?